And welcome into the New England Hockey Journal's RinkWise podcast. I'm your host, Evan Maranofsky, joined today by Patrick Donnelly. Pat, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to be back in this chair. Missed last week's pod. Can't ask for better. I guess today's been a really bad weather, but the fall weather has been hitting so well lately, and it should be good again next week. So it's a great time of year.
Yeah, it is a great time of year. I like this time of year. We were saying before we started recording, I have my AC on as we're doing this because you can't see it with my background if you're watching on YouTube. You can't see it, but there's a ceiling fan above me. And so if it's going, I look weird. I look like I have like a little kid hat on that has a thing on the top of it that looks like I could fly away at any moment. But it is September 25th as we record this, so you'll be listening end of September, early October, which means we're in the throngs of fall hockey. It is we're nearing, I don't want to say the dog days of fall hockey, but we're not in the beginning of fall hockey anymore. Boys side, there's been a bunch of showcases. Girls side, I know you've been covering it closely. Sunday League, that's been going. And I think it's an interesting time to take the temperature of fall hockey, where it's at, what the future of it's like. And I think one of the big reasons is, and Pat, you saw the story we ran earlier this month about what Connecticut's doing with cutting edge management, CEM, what they're doing to, I don't want to say, in the headline we use the word transform, so I'll use the word transform again, but something interesting on the boys side, there are more teams now playing together, and this league, CEM, with Salisbury, with Frederick Gunn, Deerfield, Taft, and Westminster, I don't know, that maybe this might be the future. What do you think? What did you think of that story, and where do you think of fall hockey right now?
I think transform is the right word.
Thank you. Scared me.
Yeah, it was an awful word choice. I mean, look up thesaurus.com, will you? No, I mean, so we've talked about like Cushing does it, Winchendon, some of the teams in Western Mass do it, kind of their own thing as the Islanders and stuff, and KUA and now Dexter, and it's like you have that smattering here and there, but to have a whole collection of schools do it, I think is big, and especially anecdotally, the schools that have kids that have to travel the furthest for these things, and it's just like everything in there from the players you talk to, the coaches you talk to, everyone you talk to in that story, it all makes perfect sense. And I added some notes on just our little run of show here just about girls hockey, and anecdotally, when we've done our coaches survey in the past, it's been a lot of some, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but there has been the comments along similar lines of, we need to have more games all in one place, or kids are traveling way too so much for club hockey in the fall, and it felt like it was I don't know if it's a matter of time, because I still don't know if this is the prevailing opinion, but everything in there makes sense, and it with all that added together, it did feel like a matter of time until you had a collection of schools doing this with one fell swoop.
Yeah, and I think the winds are blowing in the direction of teams playing together in the fall, and it's not fully something new. You mentioned a lot of the schools that Cushing, KUA, Exeter, all these schools that do it, Winchendon, Holderness. I could go on and on. There's also leagues like Peak Performance Prep that are great, and that they play during the fall, and they have teams. Some teams, it's different guys from different teams sort of filling in. And it's more or less, let's say it's 65 to 70%, at least the rosters I've seen are of a certain team. Some of their players are going to play for the Rats or the Junior Eagles or whatever, but a lot of their team plays in that PPP league, which is great. But these teams, and I have not been out to see them yet, but from what I gather, these teams in the CEM league are like 95 to 97% those teams. And yeah, I think, when you talk about travel, for us, it's nothing. We live in the Boston area. We can schlep over to Marlborough or Foxborough or wherever you want us to go, and it's not too far. But these schools that aren't day schools, that are boarding schools, they want you on campus on the weekend. Some schools have Saturday classes. There are events Saturday night. Tucker Mears from Frederick Gunn, who I talked to, is a I forget what the word is on campus, sort of a leader, and they want him around on a prefect. That's a great,
very Harry Potter thing.
Yeah, good catch. I completely forgot
No,
the
that
word.
stuck out to me. I remember that. But
Perfect
no, exactly.
prefect.
Like you got events on campus, you got homework. Like dude, I can only imagine, when we were in high school, just playing regular high school sports, let alone like really high level prep school sports, just balancing homework and travel from an away game. And now you got to do it on, Tucker Mears has to stay in a hotel on a Saturday and Sunday night and still get all his assignments in at a really high end school. So yeah.
It is one of the things with these prep schools where it's like parents are spending all this money to go to a Frederick Gunn or a Salisbury or their Choate or wherever, and it's well, what's it? I shouldn't have to spend more money. I think parents sort of feel that way. I shouldn't have spent more money on top of what I'm already spending. It should be sort of a one-stop shop. But I know like one-stop shop is the word that Danny Donato at Dexter always uses for what they're doing. You can come here, you're going to practice during the fall on campus. You're going to work out in the fall on campus. You're going to play for the Brookline Whalers. You're going to play together as a team. And, you still have players who want to play for the Junior Eagles and the River Rats and the Militia. And that's great. And Mid Fairfield and the Bulldogs and the Nor'easters and all these teams, which is great. And I think you are also seeing sort of the blend, which we've touched on, which is, Cushing is the Central Mass Penguins, Islanders East, Islanders West and East, or Holderness and Winchendon. I forget which is which, but you get my point. And I know Exeter plays as the River Rats. I think it's the U19 team or it's a certain U18 team. They play together. St. Mark's plays on a Little Bruins team together, I believe. And like as I said, there are a ton more. And even in Connecticut, there are teams that have like almost all Kent kids. And I think that also works too. And I think you're seeing that where teams are saying, hey, we don't have a league yet, but let's put ourselves under a current fall team. And Dexter's the big one doing that, obviously, now with the Brookline Whalers. And I think I don't think we see, my guess is, and this isn't informed, but my guess is in the next, 5 to 10 years, we see more of this, which is exactly what we're getting. Teams playing together in the fall under a different name. Do I think we see the NEPSAC say, hey, you know what? No more fall, springs, winter sports. You're just going to play? No, I don't. I don't think we see that anytime soon. But we're kind of trending in that direction. So I do wonder if the dam breaks in 10 to 12 years where the NEPSAC says, you know what? Start in October. I wonder if we ever get to that point on the boys' side. Girls, I know it's a different case.
Yeah, that was my next question for you. And like you mentioned, even if the teams outside of Connecticut aren't in that league still, just the fact that they are on one team. I've been to Marlboro a few times and I'm stuck behind the KUA bus, and it's just but like even though you're not playing on campus like the Connecticut teams, like that you're able to have the organized travel and you're all getting back at the same time and stuff. That's just such a huge plus for kids and families. But yeah, like you said, on the girls' side, it's a lot more emphasis on multi-sport athletes, a lot more field hockey athletes in the fall, soccer players. You get your Emily Maras, who is playing both soccer and hockey at BC after she started both at Andover. I don't do I think, again, sort of like you, this is uninformed, just speculating and seeing, what's out there. But, just like I mentioned earlier, the appetite for, some more games, or at least, more just generally things in one roof, which the, NEGHL, which is one of the predominant girls fall league around here. It has your Junior Eagles, your Wizards, your Mid Fairfields and all that. They've had more games in even just anecdotally running down the schedule. There have been more games at the New England Sports Center in Marlboro. So that's one place where a bunch of teams are all together on the same day. It's typically a Sunday for the 16U and 19U groups. For the purposes of prep coverage, that's what we're focusing on. And even if you keep going, there are a handful more Sundays where they're all or mostly at the New England Sports Center, or like the Northford Ice Pavilion, or where have you, where you can have a couple games at once.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that's great for them, is that if you're a college coach on the women's side, you can go to one of those places and see a number of those teams play each other, and you can take in a ton of action in a single day. And I think with the boys' side, I mean, there's no problem with that either. Like, you can go to New England Sports Center for a show for an EAK showcase or a Beast showcase. You can go to Level or whatever, and you're going to see a ton of teams, and that's great. I didn't grow up. I didn't go to prep school, obviously. And I didn't when I was talking to Tucker Mears from Frederick Gunn about when he was, I think he came from Cleveland, and you mentioned this, Pat, like the travel of getting yourself to those games. You don't have a driver's license, you don't have a car, you're a kid, you're 14, you're 15, you're in a new prep school. It's intimidating to go up to a senior and say, "Can I have a ride? Can I please have a ride this
I
weekend?"
remember just at Malden Catholic, man, like golf practice or whatever, hockey tryouts. Like, I don't know anybody like, but can I have a ride?
Yeah, it's hard. And I think
follow the crowd and hope you find a ride.
Yeah, like, can I just kind of slide in the middle of the back of someone's car? Like, and then you have a hockey bag too. So I think it's one of those things that I never considered. And not to mention, for I'll use Tucker Mears as an example because we were, he talked for the story and we appreciate that. It hurts you getting ingratiated into campus. Like, you're making friends during the week. Saturday night comes and you're not there. And it's like, oh, love to hang out with Tucker. Not there. And so I do think that this CEM league is headed, I like the direction it's headed in. And I am curious how much it expands. And I know, like Craig Badger talked, they need to iron some things out. First years are always hard. There will be problems for sure. But I wouldn't be shocked if there were teams in, 2-3 years down the road who are like, can we join that? Like, would love to do that. And it's, I think it's a Saturday and a Sunday, or it's both days. You can play a game each day, and then you're right back to school. And I think that's a good idea. And that's, again, for your Metro Boston, like for your ISL schools, right? For, your teams around Boston, you probably don't need that. Like Belmont Hill's a day school. You're pretty close to everything. But I do wonder, is there a future in which the ISL schools try to start something? I think there's too much around here in terms of Junior Eagles and River Rats and Militia, and those are awesome organizations. The Whalers is definitely ones I'm missing. But I do wonder if the ISL schools ever try to get something together.
I mean, it does make sense with them all kind of clustered in the same stratosphere around Boston. But like, that's the point about the Connecticut teams. And, say it comes to those Western Mass and, teams in the Berkshires and upstate New York and stuff, like your Trinity Paulings, and it's feasible.
It is feasible. And I think that's the thing where, and then as we sort of touched on earlier, is there a time when you say, where the NEPSAC says, you know what, you guys are already all playing. There aren't many boys hockey players. Girls, as we said, is different, but there aren't that many boys hockey players playing soccer anymore. That we start the season in early October and make the games really matter. And I wonder about that. If that ever gets to that point, I don't think we're that close. But I think the more that this happens, the more schools that you can check next to and say they're playing together in the fall. I do wonder if the NEPSAC ever caves.
And that's, again, something like more specifically geared towards boys where, anecdotally, and I think there was maybe a mention of this in your CEM story, but anecdotally, I don't have the numbers in front of me on spring and fall athletes, but it feels like we're
throwing stuff against the wall, folks. We're seeing what sticks.
That's what a podcast is all about.
That is what a podcast
but it
is
generally
about.
Feels like more on the boys' side. If they're playing another sport, it's probably in the spring. It's probably a baseball or lacrosse or golf, where I feel like you have more of either the 3 sports or the fall sports on the girls' side.
100%. And girls, I think, is even then you get that way.
Yeah, and even then you get the coaches love the 3 sport athletes, as we talked about, or the multi-sport at least. A lot of softball players, a lot of cross players, and on the flip side, a lot of field hockey, a lot of soccer, like we mentioned.
And then there's the question of, so like we'll iron this out here. So boys hockey,
we're solving all the problems now.
We are fixing a broken.
Let's found our own league.
We should start the New England Hockey Journal League. Like, just take over.
We should.
The
RinkWise showcase.
Yes, the RinkWise showcase. That would be great. We do a podcast through all the games. What I wonder is, so like obviously boys hockey, a lot of the kids play lacrosse. Probably a smaller percentage play baseball, but a lot of them play lacrosse and baseball. If hockey started in October, do those sports like lacrosse and baseball now say, hey, can we start in like December playing indoors? Or can we start earlier? And does that cut into hockey? And suddenly, or do you, or if you're a spring sport, do you say, hey, can we go till midsummer? Like, I don't know. Like, that's the other part of it too, where like, soccer would probably want to go longer or start earlier, maybe start in like mid-July or something. Families might be pissed. Families with vacation homes are pissed. But I do wonder, like, if hockey did go truly full season in the NEPSAC, other sports are going to want to. Can that work? And this is probably something that they're running into.
So there's a lot of big picture and like kind of big brain direction conversations you want to have, which I don't know if we have time for on this podcast. But a lot of the talk seems to be, if you're going to make the hockey season longer, it's because you want it to mirror the college season, which is first or second week of October to end of February, beginning of March, excluding, Frozen Four and national tournament. So within those overlaps, like there are the select few in college who do the multi-sports, and you got your soccer season like second to last or last week of August through like, I don't know, first week of November, whenever conference championships are before you get into nationals. And so then you get into that time of year where you're spread kind of thin, you're probably missing some things for others. And it's like, well, if you want to extend seasons and do that, your easiest way to do it is probably just mirror the NCAA seasons. And then you get into that weird, like 3-week, month-ish cross time, I suppose. And the same thing would be in the spring when, softball and baseball teams are going and doing like 2 weeks of spring training in California or Florida. And it's like, well, you're probably not having a New England prep school go to Florida to play baseball. Unless they want to front that travel for everybody.
Do they not already? Do they not do that?
Well, I have no idea. That would be a question for New England Baseball Journal.
That would be. That's not our neck of the woods.
I suppose they would. But again, you get into that kind of crossover season. It's tough. It's a lot of dominoes that will fall. And again, I don't know if we have time to unpack all of this or if we have the informed enough opinions to solve all these problems now. But it's all just on the periphery, I suppose.
Well, it's pertinent because it's, you have this CEM league, which are teams mainly playing together. And some of these kids have stopped playing for their typical club team, that their split season that they play for in the fall, and if they make nationals in the spring. And I just wonder if we're getting closer and closer to what feels like full season hockey. Do we ever hit that? And I think I agree with you in that, like, there's a lot to iron out. I don't think it's anytime soon, but it's closer than it was 3 or 4 years ago when I started doing this.
It is. I think you were right off the top when you said that's probably, I don't know, 5 years, a decade away still.
Yes, completely.
But let's keep this exercise going. If you want to really extend the season, you got to incorporate the other sports too. And the NEPSAC's got its own things to do as well as the governing body. Do you just meet in the middle and say, all right, you get November?
That could be what you do
instead of October. Do you get November? And because realistically, all your fall sports are wrapped up before Thanksgiving. Obviously, I presume there are Thanksgiving football games in the NEPSAC. Again, we don't have New England Football Journal, but
I think there are.
Yeah, so. All right, so instead of a month of crossover, you probably just got a couple weeks, and that's easier to manage. Yeah, because I feel like if we're gonna walk down this path and flesh it all out, like October and November feels like a lot, especially if you're trying to keep everyone happy, multiple sports. Do you just say you get November?
It's a good idea, and here's another reason why it's a good idea, not just for the other sports, but for club hockey. If you're the River Rats or you're the Junior Eagles or you're Mid Fairfield, you can offer fall split season hockey from, as far as I know, unless there's a rule that prevents this, which I can't imagine that there is, from mid-August to late October, very early November. So if
Yeah, I mean, you
like
get
if you could do that. Like maybe move instead of the River Rats Jamboree being like the weekend before Labor Day weekend, you have it like 2 weekends before Labor Day weekend, and you start it like a week or two earlier to add on some extra time. Maybe that's a way for split season club teams. If we did what you just said, which is start the boys season, boys prep in mid-November, which some teams do play games in like mid to late November, but like everybody starts somewhere
yeah,
in
you
that
get a lot of
mid-November
scrimmages
timeframe.
in like the week
Yes.
before Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
But if you
Um,
had that, like, then you could, for those split season teams, you could offer something prior to that for kids who want to play those first 2 months.
I mean, what's to say you don't just keep everything as is and just lop off a weekend at the end of the season? Because what's the Mass State tournament? It's the second weekend of November, right?
I believe so. I think so.
And
Yeah.
girls is typically the weekend of Thanksgiving, which is always super fun.
Yeah.
Um,
I always feel
but it's
bad.
like, and there's like, I could be mistaken, but I feel like last year there was nothing. Like you had the season pretty much end first week in November, and then there was like nothing until the state tournament for on the girls' side for Mass. So it's like, okay, start your season, keep the River Rats Jamboree second to last weekend of August. You got your Labor Day showcases, you got your Columbus Day showcases. There's probably like the mid-September showcases. I know CPC has one. You get your and then instead of a Halloween showcase, Halloween is just the Mass State tournament, or first week of November is the Mass State tournament. Like it's you're losing what, 1 or 2 weeks, like if that.
Yeah. I wonder,
And
like,
and there's something to say like about how much you really need those weeks anyways in the fall.
I'm interested in this because this is sort of a hybrid between truly going like full season, but you are extending the season. You're probably getting 5
And
to
it's like
6 more prep games.
Not to generalize, and I know not everyone is in the Ivy League bucket, but most Ivy League college hockey programs don't start until the end of October, start in November.
That's
So that
true.
you're technically mirroring the college season if you're going to be an Ivy League kid, which a lot of NEPSAC players are.
That is true.
Not all, but a good amount.
I'm curious to hear from people on this. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, hey, here come the angry emails as we're
Please send them.
shooting the breeze and solving all the world's problems.
Email us, tweet at us, comment on the YouTube video. I'm very curious. Like, would people be interested in that? Either truly
Showcase
full
organizers
season.
are going to be pissed.
Well, this is why we brought up the part about starting it earlier. If you started the prep season.
Yeah, if you really want that 1 or 2 weeks that would get lopped off at the end of the season, start a week earlier in August. And August is a quiet month anyways.
Yeah. So
again, like girls, you get your USA hockey stuff at the beginning of the month, but I mean, again, the season doesn't really kick off until, Naha Labor Day showcase or the Pittsburgh showcase or whatever.
And there is a lot to be gained from playing on those fall season teams. You're playing under a new coach, so you're learning new things. You're playing under sort of a different system. You're playing with new players, or not new players, but different players. And that's very fun. A lot of those kids are friends. They grew up playing together. Maybe they don't go to the same prep school, but they get to play with Mid Fairfield or the Junior Bulldogs together. But I am curious, are people interested in truly full season and saying, hey, you know what? I would love to never have to go to New England Sports Center for a showcase again. Or would people say that, hey, look, I like your idea, Pat, of start the season in November, maybe start the fall season a little bit earlier. And if teams want to play together during that time, like if you're Holderness and you want to play as the Islanders, great. If you're, Evan Jones and you want to play for the Junior Eagles, that's fine too. You play from, mid-August to like basically end of October, and then you start the prep season shortly after. Or are people just fine with how it is? Like I think those are 3 good options.
So again, like we've said, like if this comes to a head, it's not next year. Like
no,
it's not.
No,
it's not that
clear.
Soon. But like the November piece, it's like that's probably the way you keep everybody happy if you really want to make everyone happy. Yeah, you
gotta walk before you can run, and that is walking before you run.
Well,
because you move a little closer to the full season, and if it doesn't work, if people don't want the true full season, that's a nice middle ground to be in.
Yeah, and then the thing becomes, rest for the fall athletes. They usually get a couple weeks of downtime, and unless you get a Thanksgiving football game to ramp up for. You get 1 or 2 weeks of downtime, and then you're into the hockey season. So that's a thing, and it's who knows.
We figured it all out today.
We did.
We
Solve all the
figured
world
it all
problems.
out. I like this. I like where that conversation went. We truly we went full boat on that. I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
I want to touch on some latest in college recruiting because this is end of September, so it's been 2 months for boys. It's been since June 15th for girls, so that's 3.5 months. So on the boys' side, some interesting things to note. Since we last did a podcast and since we last kind of talked recruiting, and if I miss any, I'm sorry. There are a lot. A couple days ago, Liam Kilfoyle committed to Northeastern. That's huge. So Liam actually was one of the first kids I did a story on when I started working here. I remember hearing about how good he was. He was starting as I think it was a freshman at Salisbury. He was a 15 only. I know that. And he was good at Salisbury, and then he went to the Q. And back then it was like, oh, doesn't want to play college hockey. He had a ton of interest. He was really good. So, college teams were on him, but he went to the Q. So there went that, right? Nope, not with the CHL ruling. So Liam Kilfoyle committed to Northeastern. So that's a great get for them. He's high end. I think he's poised for a huge year. But I believe he's with St. John. And then UConn got the Adamovsky brothers, Nathan and Liram. If I'm saying that right. They're both in the OHL. I've never seen them play, but I know Nathan's ranked very high. Liram is also ranked well as well. Oh man, he's ranked good. Well,
all's well that ends well.
All's well that ends well. So good for UConn there. Spencer Thornborough committed to Maine. That's a nice get for them. He's going to be in the queue this year. He was at Governors the last couple of years, standout junior Eagle growing up. Nice get for Maine, who was much quieter this year in terms of recruiting. They have a lot of recruits. So I think that's probably a big reason why, where they're just kind of slowing down a little bit, which is okay. And then Brown got Elliot Lennon, who was one of the best goalies in prep last year. I believe he's 6'6". Deerfield, big reason why Deerfield was number 1 in prep last year for the Elite 8. So that's a nice get for Brown. Caden Danya committed to Quinnipiac. So Caden Danya is interesting, Pat. Caden Danya became eligible last summer, and he's always had a lot of interest in him. Big defenseman, very raw, high upside, good potential. He was at Select 17 camp this summer. He made Halinka camp. He didn't make the Halinka team, but he made the camp. He was at NTDP evaluation camp 2 years ago. And who doesn't like a big right shot defenseman? And I know that there were a lot of schools that were in on him and were looking at him this summer. And he picked Quinnipiac. That's a good get for Quinnipiac because and I wrote this when he committed, the very least serviceable third pairing right shot defenseman, right? Like you'll take that. Good size, all that. Grows into himself a little bit more. But if he hits that ceiling where it's like, oh, this is a two-way force. So I am very curious sort of what he ends up becoming. We're not going to know it now, obviously, but I'm intrigued to watch him at Groton this year and sort of see how he progresses. And then 2 for Sacred Heart. Tim Donahue from Westminster. Congrats to him. And Ethan Travis from Tabor. Ethan Travis has been a high-end guy for a while. River Rat. And he commits Sacred Heart. So that's been sort of the big local commits for boys over the last month or so. So not insane, but some big names in there. Pat, though, I know with the girls, I have your list in front of me, and we can mention them all. There's a lot. There is a lot.
And I thought after the last podcast and after August, all the big names are gone, and then or kind of the day after we recorded, and then over just the last few weeks, there's still some big names out there, and they kind of keep just pouring in on the 08s and the 09s and the girls, which is kind of a couple themes anecdotally, or just one theme, I guess, off the top. The Hockey East with the 09s, especially the Canadian 09s. I don't have the updated numbers, but I wrote my, takeaways at the beginning of the month that, we haven't gotten to those on the podcast. And at the time we had 59 players among our 09s in the database. Let me check how many we have now. We have 68, so like 10 more. I can imagine
Holy
the numbers
crap.
haven't really changed that much, or 9 more,
09s
I
for
suppose.
boys is like, at least locally or
20.
committed to local schools, I think it's 20. It might be under 20. It's not much.
Yeah. Um, at the time, Hockey East had 54% of the '09 commits in our database. Again, that's not counting WCHA and a lot of Atlantic schools, but at least locally for kids playing here, coming here, wherever, Hockey East kind of is dominating the '09s, and that's not, I guess, entirely unexpected. Northeastern's the big player, BU's on the upswing, BC's always the big name and a big player locally, Providence and UConn. But it's just kind of jarring to see like genuinely how much of the pie they've kind of taken up already. So just again, something we're just monitoring.
Do you
As the
think
'09s
hockey's
keep rolling
teams have
in.
improved? Do you think they're trying, not trying harder, but are they going harder at these recruits? Like, what do you think the reasoning is for that? Because again, usually you have your Browns, your Yales,
Yeah, and I
obviously your
know
Big
it's been
Tens.
like BU specifically has been a lot of Canadian kids playing in Ontario, and Tara Watchorn, I believe, is from Ontario. It was a big Hockey Canada presence when she was a player, so that's an easy kind of market to corner, I suppose, if you want to use that term. Yeah, I don't know. You got to wonder if it's, especially if you're tapping into the Canadians, if it's hey, your WCHA schools, your Minnesotas, your Minnesota Duluths, your Wisconsins are probably going to get a lot of the elite American talent. Can we draw a lot of the elite Canadian talent? Which at a point in time, BU did that with Victoria Bach, Marie-Philippe Poulin. I want to say Rebecca Leslie. I don't know if she's American or not, so I don't want to formally say it. But those types of players were when BU was making national tournaments, that's who they were getting. And Northeastern when they went international to Alina Mueller in Switzerland and Chloe Aurore in France. So it's all cyclical. Is this just hockey's getting back into the international market, specifically BU, BC, and Northeastern with however many Canadian kids they've gotten so far with the '09s.
Yeah, that's interesting that Hockey East is doing that well with especially the '09s. And then in terms of the actual,
I was going to say again, just I would have to put that I should do this at some point. Just put it up with every single '09 across the country, not just for our local database, and see how that holds up and what percentage of the pie they've got nationally.
that would be interesting to see. That would be interesting to see in terms of how much more active are they. And then is it also the class? Like, I don't know the class like you do, but I am curious. Maybe it's something with that where those players are.
Yeah,
more
you and I
committed.
talked about that on Slack, and I think we touched on it last time too. Is it just a matter of it being cyclical, and there's either a bigger '09 pool, or just with the classes at these schools, they had more spots to recruit for the '09s? Who knows?
In terms of the recruits themselves, who stood out to you? What are some of the notable ones that you wanna highlight?
Yeah, actually, a lot. Aaron Flaherty. I, it's not super chronological. I kind of went through as I saw them, and some, as I'm updating today and stuff. Aaron Flaherty from St. Paul's commits to BU. She was, quote unquote, on the board for a while. Someone who's really impressed at Mass Hockey Festival and Final 40 this year. I remember the same thing kind of last year, and just a just a good, solid, all around player. She's done really well production wise at St. Paul's. She had, I think, like, if not 20, almost 20 points as a freshman, then led them in scoring last year. Just a good all around player. Ava DeCourcy and Paisley Meyer to Yale. DeCourcy at Nobles, of course. Her offensive production didn't necessarily translate from Tilton to Nobles, but the tools are there. She had a fantastic spring and summer. Was at U18 Festival. Paisley Meyer, 1/3 of that, really productive first line at Exeter. Just a good player with a hell of a shot. So that's two good gets for defense and forward for Yale. Cornell with a big forward and defense get. They get Brooke Schluter. I'm in the neighborhood, I think. But
Close.
I think she had 18 goals last year, led Williston in scoring. Williston, we've talked about all the, ton of experience. They lost a lot of, not a lot, but they lost some really high end players last year. And at least on paper, the keys to that forward group are now in Brooke Schlitter and Mia Daly, excuse me, their hands. They got the keys to that forward group now. And Schlitter she was awesome at USA Hockey Nationals with the Connecticut Polar Bears. She's had a really good fall. When I saw them at the Junior Eagles last week. So a real player to keep an eye on going into the prep season. Then they get Catherine Hall as well on defense. She's at Shattuck St. Mary's from Connecticut. Big, rangy defender. Plays a smart game. And you got Morella Martinelli heading to Providence. She's going to be at Tabor this year after she put up like 95 points on defense for Level last year. Instantly in the conversation for best defender in the NEPSAC, and she hasn't even played a game.
Crazy.
I know Tabor's high on her. Of course, why wouldn't you be high on her? And, Providence kid committing to Providence. That's a good get for them. Devin Moore from Dexter committing to Holy Cross. Her first year in prep last year after she had an awesome season in the MIA the year before. I'd probably expect a little more production from her this year. Really high motor, just kind of always around the play. Moira Landsverk, goalie out of now Frederick Gunn. She was with Level last year to UNH. So UNH gets a goalie there. Stonehill gets Madeline Carey from Level Academy. I think off the top of my head, she had 45 points last year. Mackenzie Sutherland from Dexter, smooth skating defenseman. Minnesota Duluth, Renee Lapointe. She's not local, but she was someone at Beantown Classic this year who was fantastic. She really, really dynamic skill set. I think Minnesota Duluth. Let me actually double check that. But again, really dynamic skill set from the blue line.
And she's from around here?
She's from Canada, so not local, but one I've wanted to highlight after seeing her this summer. And then Minnesota Duluth also got Katie Hurley, goalie out of Berkshire, also plays with the Connecticut Polar Bears. She's shown well when I've seen her with her club team.
That's so interesting. Duluth got someone who goes to Berkshire. That is like
Katie Hurley is from Canada, though. So
okay, well, still,
so it's not a local. Yeah,
it's still interesting.
Oh, but my mistake. I misspoke there. St. Cloud State, which is still St. Cloud State for Hurley, I should say, which is still way the hell out there. But yeah, Katie Hurley's a bigger goalie. She's played well when I've seen her. Cadence Wright, defender. She's going to Lindenwood. She is with Northwood School now after she played with Frederick Gunn last season. Saw her at the Wizard Showcase this past summer, and I think she played for a team called Northern Prospects or something like that. A lot of Canadian kids on that team, and they had a really short bench, and she was on the ice like the entire game, and she was maybe the best player on the ice, even though at end of the first or second period she was gassed, but she had a really good game there. So wanted to highlight that. Lily Winkler, St. A's, she's an 07 forward, so a later commitment for her. Had a really productive season at Cushing last year. She's going to be a big piece for them this year. Courtney Schifrin going to Assumption. She had her first year at Lawrence Academy last year. Bigger forward, power forward type of game. Lainey Miller, another Canadian kid. She's going to Dartmouth, I believe Canadian kid. She might, or maybe Minnesota, but productive from her numbers. And then Erin Healy joining a pretty big New England contingent down at Princeton. Her sister Megan, who also played at Bishop Kearney, is going to start her freshman year there with, it's a who's who. It's Megan Collins, who's captain at Loomis last year. Tina Scalise is committed to Princeton. Both Caroline and Maggie Averill committed to Princeton. Lily Bromley committed to Princeton. Like, there's a huge high-end New England contingent committed to Princeton.
Why do you think that is with Princeton? I know they're good, but you think that's all it is, or do you think there's more to it? That's
a great question. I think it's easy to, the sisters to draw the line there, with the Healys and the Averills. The Healys and Katie Collins are both from South Burlington, Vermont. Is it as simple as that? I'd have to look at their coaching staff. Maybe there's a New England connection there. That is a good question. That's on the spot, something we need to dig into a little more along with,
it's also a really good school.
It's
a really good school.
Oh, of course.
And
of course.
It's, you want to go, that Princeton is a huge deal, and you get to go to Princeton and play college hockey, really good college hockey. So Yale does well too. Like, Yale gets great girls. Harvard does too. All the Ivies too. The Ivies are strong. And again, I think it's a difference with men's college hockey where, I know obviously Harvard's a big destination, but is it, I don't think they're as big of destinations on the boys' side. And maybe it's because Hockey East is a little stronger with boys than it is with girls. And I don't know. Again, spitballing. So that's something we should look into. That's an interesting thing.
Princeton's been a big player, at least in the women's side for, I know they had Sarah Fillier who, she was anointed the next in line behind Marie-Philippe Poulin a few years ago. And, she's a, huge Hockey Canada presence. So having a high-end kid like that come through your program, that's a big draw. And, I think just what's the word, reputation wise, they're in that ECAC boat with, I would say, Clarkson and Cornell and, those teams that have traditionally been very good in the ECAC.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we've hit on everything today. Continue.
Did want to set the record straight on a couple things I didn't have totally in line. So Lainey Miller is from Minnesota, the Dartmouth commit, not Canadian, but 25 points in 28 games at Minnetonka High last year. Nice production there. And then Renee Lapointe is Minnesota Duluth, and Katie Hurley is St. Cloud State. So didn't want to get that twisted.
All our Minnesota listeners can breathe easy. They can sleep easy tonight.
Yes.
Thankfully. I think we've hit on everything. There's only one thing left to do, Pat, and that is to bring on our great producer, David Yaz, for our beloved Overtime.
Overtime.
Another edition of Overtime where I have 3 questions for both of our panelists here. We're going to keep it simple today. We will do an overrated or underrated edition of Overtime. So I'm going to give you 3 subjects, and you just tell me whether they are overrated or underrated and why. And I suppose if you want to say properly rated, you can say that, but that's boring. All right, first one, we'll start with you, Evan. Playoff beards, the tradition, the superstition, the fine practice of growing a beard for hockey playoffs. Did you ever do it as a player or as a fan, perhaps? Evan, what do you think?
I used to like him as a kid, but I will say they are overrated because if every team has a playoff beard, then what does it give you? What does it do? If the other team has beards as well, doesn't that just cancel it out? I heard one writer say that, and he was a really annoying writer. I'm not going to say his name. Pat, I'll tell you who it is off air. It was a really annoying guy, but he said it once, and I remember thinking, oh, he's kind of right, and I never unsaw it. So I'll say they're overrated. By the way, yes, I love your quarter zip.
Oh, thanks. UMass. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I take it you saw that.
Come
Damn
on.
right. Damn
come
right.
on.
Where's the BU stuff? Oh, it's gone. He burned
on.
it. He burned his BU
Hey.
stuff.
I have a degree from
You
BU,
don't
as a
have
matter
any
of
arm's
fact,
reach.
but I don't have any BU gear. And
Good
my
man.
son went to UMass, so come on. Pat, playoff beards, overrated, underrated? He's thinking.
Is perfectly rated an option, or do I have to?
No.
Am I allowed to ride the fence here?
Pick a lane.
Okay. All right. I'll play devil's advocate. I'll play the defense for them. They're underrated. They're awesome. And you look weird when you're the New York Islanders and you don't have any playoff beards. You look weird when you're Sidney Crosby and you can't grow a beard and the rest of your team can. Like, and I say that as someone who can't grow a full beard. But like, I don't know. I think it's especially when you get to the Cup final, you look like you've been to war. You look disheveled. There's just something about, Zdeno Chara and that Bruins team looking legit disheveled and just partying their asses off. And, it's, I don't know, it's as simple as, just team bonding, when high school hockey, when you go and bleach your hair, how much fun that is. It's as simple as that. It's team bonding. It's
Fine.
awesome.
Persuasive argument, Pat. But the judges have ruled against
Overrated.
you.
Damn.
I appreciate your passion. I appreciate you taking devil's advocate. Second question, Pat, you get to go first on this one. NHL teams that do not end in the letter S. From 1917 to 1992, every team had an S at the end. Come on, Bruins, Canadians, what have you. And then in 1992, we get the Lightning. In 2000, we get the Wild. In I forgot the Avalanche in 95. Then we get the Kraken, and now we got the Mammoth. Overrated or underrated, Pat?
So, asking if I want them to end in S, overrated, underrated.
Yeah, the topic is the teams that don't end in S. So these
that don't end in S,
are they overrated or underrated?
I want to say they're overrated. I think there are a lot of it's a top heavy group, but it's a pretty large, or I should say it's a bottom heavy group. There are some really good ones. Mammoth is good.
You like Mammoth?
I wish they went with like Yeti or something, but Mammoth is still good. I think Blizzard would have sucked, or whatever they would have gone with. Mammoth's good. Kraken is awesome. Avalanche is solid, but like Lightning, come on. Wild, come on. Like there are some real bad ones in there.
I guess the plural of Mammoth is just Mammoth, but right? Otherwise, why are they not just the Mammoths? Would that be such a crime?
Yeah, and Florida, you're just going with the seasonal weather. Come on, you're near the Everglades in Tampa. Come on.
Yeah, I never liked the heat either. Evan,
kind of near the Everglades.
The Wild name, that's one of my least favorite in sports.
It's
like
bad.
that
So
team
bad.
has no identity. It's stuck with them forever. I think it's underrated. It's different.
Really?
It's something different. Most teams have the S at the end. Most teams are plural, and it allows you to do a little bit more. So yeah, I think it's a little underrated. Caring about it's a little overrated. Caring about that's overrated.
That was not the question.
I'll say it's underrated.
I care about it today. Judges, what say you?
Overrated.
Oh, Pat wins the argument that time. Yes, overrated. But it's like, have we run out of things that have normal pluralizations? No, it's too much. Okay. But that's just two men's opinion. Final one, and we'll start with you again, Evan. Pretty simple. NHL mascots. In recent years, Gritty, the Philadelphia Flyers mascot, burst on the scene. I think it was a couple years before that, or maybe many years, when Craig McTavish ripped out the tongue of Harvey the Hound, causing quite an incident in Calgary. In general, the chicanery, the hijinks of NHL mascots, Evan, overrated or underrated?
I'm gonna say underrated. I still the gritty clips, I still find them funny. I think if you have a good mascot and they do funny things and they're kind of a meme in today's social media age, it helps promote your team. It helps you with kids. That's an underrated asset. And even if you have like a Blades the Bruin doesn't do anything special. He's just a bear. Kids love it. It's funny when he's walking through the concourse. Back when we were younger, Pat, they had those ads of, like the guy who had the Canadian's girlfriend.
Oh, with the real bear mascot?
Yes. Like it was
Those were awesome.
They're great. Like I think underrated because it helps promote your team in a fun way. And yeah, who has a problem with mascots?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when the Red Sox introduced Wally the Green Monster at first, he was ridiculed. But much like the fortunes of almost all the Boston sports franchises, it somehow turned around right around 2004 or so, and Jerry Remy declared his love for Wally. And the rest is history. And I think Blades flew in on similar brand of enthusiasm. That's just a theory. Pat, you don't have to disagree. You don't have to disagree, by the way. But Pat, mascots overrated or underrated?
I was gonna say underrated. With the caveat along the lines of like Gritty. Like some people are tired of the shtick. I'm not. I think it's still really funny. I think his whole like Secret Service he has with him is really funny. Just the whole thing of it is, and all the hijinks they do at the game, really funny. And then you get the safe ones like Blades. Wally's pretty safe. The Maple Leafs though, you got a polar bear, Carlton the polar bear. Have someone dress up as a leaf. I don't know, like.
A leaf would be great.
I mean this is no shade at all when I say this to whoever does Lucky at the Celtics, because he does an awesome job. He's a hell of an athlete, all the showmanship and stuff. But is he a mascot? He's just a guy dressed up. He's not in a suit.
Yeah.
Doing
So
flips.
that's where I get a little, I don't know, but he does a great job. I will say that.
He works hard,
But-
but you're right. The Celtics could use a big fuzzy head. I mean, that's just what the kids want, and the kids should rule. And I think you're both right. I think mascots, if anything, are underrated.
Underrated.
Have either of you seen the film Mascots? It's a Christopher Guest comedy. No,
I have not.
it's one of his mockumentaries. It's about the culture of being a mascot, and there is a character who plays. It's fiction. It's not real, but he in the movie he is the mascot is the Fist. He's a hockey mascot, and the Fist is violent, and it's just a fist. It's just a big, like, picture a stuffed animal fist on someone's head, but he skates around and he's violent, and he does inappropriate things to fans. And in one memorable moment, he lets the middle finger of the fist go loose when he gets really pissed off. It's quite funny. You should check it out. Great movie, Mascots.
I haven't seen that.
I believe it's on Netflix.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, you've both done very well in overtime, as far as you know. And back to you, Evan, to wrap things up.
I was just say, like, who doesn't kind of smile when you see Wally coming towards you? Like, oh, it's Wally. Like, you like that, don't you? I mean, that's...
I think everyone loves him now. When he first, there was the famous moment he emerged from the Green Monster, and they announced him and everything, and he got a very cool reception, because Boston fans like tradition. They don't tend to like anything new. But as soon as Remy and Orsillo used to put him sitting in his little lounge chair there in the broadcast
I remember
booth,
that.
and it was a very funny sight. And somehow he became an unlikely hero. And now I think everybody, grown-ups, kids, the drunk people in the bleachers, everybody loves Wally. Have a heart, love Wally. I don't know about
I remember
Tess.
going
I
to
don't know about
games when I
Tessie.
was.
Yeah.
I agree there. I do remember going to games when I was little, though, and just looking up at the booth and, like, looking to see if we could see Wally sitting out on his perch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big times.
When I brought my son to his first game, he was very young, must have been 4 or something. But he saw Wally like a couple sections over throwing foam baseballs to people. And then Wally kind of disappeared. And my son said, "Dad, why didn't Wally throw us a baseball?" And I said, there are 33,000 people here. We're going to get one eventually, Griff. Anyway, Wally's important. Mascots are important. Well done, boys.
We did it. We did it. Good overtime. Good podcast. Maybe we'll come up with some new mascots. Maybe a New England Hockey Journal mascot will be in the works.
Mascot Fall League.
Ooh, you nailed it, Pat. That's Pat Donnelly. I'm Evan Maranofsky. You RinkWise listeners, we will see you at the rinks.